All right, so let's talk about how to get the most out of your social media team. And I think we should start talking about the bigger companies on what they are doing with their social media. The bigger, more quote unquote successful companies that are doing it right, have bigger social media budgets and their bigger teams, more people, better pay. It's working for them, right? What are they doing that's working, and how do they have their responsibilities divided up that works for them? And I think it's important to understand that before we start talking about the small business or the startup or the old business getting into social media. So, what are all the jobs that can be broken down into in a bigger company for social media?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with, for one, you should have a marketing department, obviously, 'cause the marketing goes hand in hand with social media. But the actual social media specific roles would be social media strategist, and these titles may change a little bit depending on where you are and what the company is. But typically, there's social media strategist, a social media manager, a content creator, and a copywriter. So those are kind of the four main roles. So copywriter is exactly what it sounds like. It'd be someone who writes all the copies. So that would be your captions if you're, focusing on I don't know, videos or something along those lines. It would be like titling those things, or if you have like a podcast. I don't know if you would consider that like part of social media, being able to
I
title
would.
those things.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a copywriter would come up with titles. They would really be working with like SEO, trying to find the right keywords and things to make sure that it is searchable. Same thing with hashtags and the captions and structuring things to really retain people's interest. And if you're recording things like reels, for example, the copywriter could come up with a script for those things. The content creator would be the person who actually creates all of the content. So that could be, and this may be multiple roles also, depending on how big the social media
I'll
platform
say
is.
like the content creator could be a straight up small film team.
It could be, yeah. If video or reels or something is like the main thing that you're working towards, absolutely. You could have a full-on photographer there that's just capturing, like if you have a big office, just capturing lifestyle images, cultural images, things like that. Or if you're selling products, maybe they have like a full product station all the time. Um,
Yeah, and that photographer's just doing photography and not video, and then they have a video person or video team just doing video.
yeah,
Like, believe it or not, some places it works like that.
yeah. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
yeah. For me personally, I have a background in design. I was a graphic designer for a long time, specialized in UX, and now I do website management. And so graphic design is like a big aspect in social media too. And even whenever you're talking about things like, I'm gonna say it, YouTube, even though it's not a social media platform,
Nope.
but thumbnails are a big part of that too.
Yeah.
And so if potentially, depending on the size of your team, if you do have a content creator who is managing YouTube channel, they could be making thumbnails also. So I would argue that design goes into that. But even on other
Oh,
social
yeah.
media platforms, there's
Design
still,
definitely does. Yeah.
yeah, even on, other social media platforms, there's still designers that could be working on like animations inside of reels, or making carousels for Instagram, or like flashy Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts, or things like that. So those are the kind of two like big content related roles. The social media manager would be the person who's actually managing all the content that is created by the content creator and the copywriter. So the manager would be taking the content and the captions that are made by the other two people and scheduling that all out. So they're figuring out when the best time of day is to post, when your audience is the most active, on which platforms, and they're really dialing in that content and making sure that it's being pushed out at the right time. They would also be the one managing your inbox, your comments section, all of those kinds of things. So that person is really the one that is like most engaged with your actual audience. So they are hands-on inside of each one of the social media apps and really working with your audience directly. And social media strategist was the first one that I had actually started talking about. This one is the one that is coming up with the strategy of, they basically take the analytics from your social media and they really dial in a good strategy on when to post, where your audience is, how to hit your target audience if your current audience isn't there, all of those different things. So the strategist, the main workflow would be that the strategist creates a strategy, they hand it off to content creator and copywriter to create the content, and then the manager is the one that's actually posting it. So it should be a full circle effect, everyone working together.
Mhm. Hopefully politely and nicely.
Yeah. Can you think of
I
any
was
like
gonna
downfalls of that?
of having a team like that?
Yeah,
No. Like, and most places don't have that luxury.
that's true.
So
Yeah, mostly
let's
not.
run through all those jobs again. What are
Okay.
all the parts?
So a strategist, someone who's watching analytics, coming up with strategy, posting schedule, all that stuff. Manager, who's the one who's hands-on on the social media platforms, interacting with your followers. Content creator and copywriter.
Okay, so those are the four major pillars of the big parts that move the vehicle of social media management, is what
Yes.
people categorize it all under.
Yeah.
People, when most positions, when they're hiring a social media manager, these are the four jobs they're actually hiring for,
Mhm.
and they will combine them all into one. And I think a lot of places don't. Well, don't you don't expect them to, especially if they're new. These are new job roles.
Yeah.
It's all new. I mean, you don't when you work in a bigger company, you don't understand, you don't know and are expert in everyone else's job around you.
Yeah.
So I can see how that's hard to start thinking about what you actually need. But when you're hiring that one social media manager, and we joke about that a lot here, the social media manager, these
This
are the
magical person.
and each one of those can break down further. Like
Hmm.
when you say content creator,
Yeah.
think
That
about,
that could be at least three separate roles
yeah,
in itself.
are they doing the photography? Are they producing a podcast? Because now they're an audio engineer. Are they editing and shooting the same? Are they doing it all? Are they producing? Are they putting together the content, going out and shooting? Or if they're producing a podcast, are they reaching out and trying to get the guests for you? I mean, that that alone could be a whole nother thing we talk about. So that's a huge consideration there. So for a smaller business, and I think we talked about this before somewhere, if you could only hire, what's the minimum amount of people you think you'd hire to start a social marketing team? Let's say for a small company who's finally starting to dip their toes into hiring and they think they know they need somebody to help with social. What should they start hiring for? What does that job posting look like? What are they asking for?
Yeah, I think depending on your budget. So first of all, you need to determine what your salary is, and it should be comparable to what the average social media manager salary is, which can be wild. But usually, it's dependent on your local your local market. So it may vary state to state or wherever you're located. But
And when you say social media manager, you're talking about just the manager,
yes,
not the four jobs
right, yeah,
that everyone
just a
else.
manager. Or
Okay.
you can look up content creator because that's another pretty common term that gets kind of
Yeah.
grouped in there too. But and usually they're in the same kind of ballpark, I would say. But really figure out what your budget is and what you can really afford, and then that will help determine what types of roles you can hire for. I would say if you have the budget to hire two roles, it should be a manager and a content creator
Yeah.
because the manager they may not be an expert in this, but they can track analytics. Analytics are especially on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, for example. They make analytics like very easy to acquire and to read and to really understand.
Would you argue
Um,
that that's one of their largest roles to play, is to watch those analytics?
it depends on what your company's goal is. I would say that the analytics should drive what kind of content you are creating. Like for example, like Meta Business Suite. I hate the tool. It's terrible software, but they do make it really easy to understand your analytics. They do really explain what each portion of the analytics means and how to improve your content based on that. So, for example, if your social media manager is looking, there's like a table that shows what your best performing content was in the last month, and you can choose the date ranges too. But um, if, for example, you want to make sure that you're getting a lot of engagement on all of their posts, they can filter that chart down to be able to show which post got the most engagement, and then they can form their strategy to make more content based on that type of post, just to kind of continue your growth. And it can go the opposite way too. If you see a significant drop in your followers, which is not always a bad thing, if you are trying to gain a specific audience, you could be losing followers who do not align with that audience. But that's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
um You know, if you see a drop in your followers or people are not as engaged in your content, you can see what kind of content you were posting this month compared to last month, and then shift back to what was working, or just dial in your strategy based from there. But to get back to the bigger point, the two like bare minimum main roles would be a manager and a content creator.
Yeah, I think those are a good place to start. And if you have to hire one of those, say you just like, there's no way we can only, we have one livable, barely livable salary to bring on one person to help with this. I think I would hire, and you tell me if this would be wrong, a manager who's watching those analytics, and everybody in your office or company is kind of helping create on their phones or whatever it may be. But that manager might be helping them with like, hey, here's what we could start doing as a team. I'm talking like a small startup.
I would argue being on the receiving end of a position like that, I would argue on that.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying
yeah.
it'd be smooth, but would it work if people actually helped?
If the business was set up in that way, yes, like it would help. But I would be careful with that, and I would be upfront in your job posting that like this is the first and only social media role that you have at this company. Just let people know what they're in for. And if you are looking for someone to do all of those things all in one, you need to really set your expectations for like this is basically 4 full-time roles that you are trying to fill with one person. So you need to set your expectations based on
Yeah,
those
that's
mile
tough too. If
markers.
you were to come in as a content creator, or not a content, you're gonna be a content creator to some extent. Coming in as a social media manager, and even if you got a team, you're saying like, hey, whatever you need, we'll help you shoot it, we'll help you make it. We got a phone we bounce around the office or whatever it may be. That social media manager is still now in charge of like, I gotta get these people to do this. So now you're almost managing the whole business, everybody. Because
And depending on the business culture, people may not want to
no,
participate in that,
and that's a big gamble on that. So do you think it's hire those two positions or none at all till you can?
I don't think so, not necessarily. 'Cause there's always going to be I guess if you're looking to fill like one position for all of these roles, like you only have a budget to hire one person, first of all, you're looking for a unicorn. And most of the time, the people that are those unicorn type roles are entry level positions that are looking to gain experience, which is not a bad thing. So I think as long as you set your expectations right in those areas, I think it's okay to post for that, but you you need to be kind of flexible in what you're receiving on that end. It's a car cast.
Our car cast. Okay.
It's a vehicle vid.
Vehicle vid. I like that. Our vehicle vid series.